fair day here. Just finished reading The Witch's Path, Advancing Your Craft at Every Level by Thorn Mooney. Those of you who are fans of hers probably already have it and are reading it, or have at least heard about it and heard other reviews. But having just finished it, I wanted to say some kind words about it. I'm a fan, so it's probably easy to think that my opinion should be taken with a grain of salt. Although, I tell you what, I'm a huge fan of Star Wars too, and I'll give you a mostly negative review of the clones attack if you have the patience. So I'd like to believe I could be honest if there was something about this book that I didn't like, but there wasn't anything. Let me start by talking about her voice. Ms. Mooney's voice is just so appealing to me. She's a very well-educated woman. She has been in academics for a long time. She's got multiple degrees. She's obviously very smart and very well-educated, but she doesn't hammer that in this book. She doesn't use like $10 words to try and show how smart she is. She isn't all about herself and her education. If anything, I would describe her voice as well thought out, insightful, and humble. And when I say humble, and she does actually in the book talk about the place that humbleness has in the craft. When I say humble, I don't mean self-effacing. She's not putting herself down or showing a lack of confidence. She's obviously a confident person. She's obviously a person who's had to work to become confident and recognizes the value of confidence. But she's not about self-aggrandizement or attempting to show that what she believes and the way she does things is the only way. In fact, she bends over backwards through the entire book to stress other points of view and to suggest that we all do the same. And I find this to be for me, one of the essences of magic. I think that for me, magic is mostly about attempting to commune with the infinite. And if you work from a fairly mundane position, I have a finite brain. I can't fit the infinite into it to get like any sort of picture, because you can't get a picture of the infinite. But if you take as many different perspectives as you possibly can, you get a bigger picture than you would if you just go with the pictures that occur to you naturally. That's me, that's not her, that's not the book. Although the book does talk about different perspectives. In fact, I would say that the content of the book, the goal she stresses for the book is if your magical practice is at a plateau, if it's getting boring, if you're not feeling it anymore, or if you're stuck, if you've got the magical equivalent of writer's block, if you just don't know what to do next, then there are some things that you can underestimate the force. That's my timer that tells me when the change in the magical hour has occurred, and I probably shouldn't leave it on when I'm shooting these videos. But for those who are curious, it just became the hour of Jupiter on the day of Saturn. So it's a good time to do Jupiter-related magic. Anyway, so the book is some techniques and methods for how to overcome these sorts of blocks. That's the stated goal. I think it's more than that. She tries to write it in such a way that it is useful to people who have been working with magic for a long time and for people who are brand new. It does make the assumption that you know something. Um, so even for like a brand new witch, um, she's assuming that you've maybe read a book or that you know a little bit or that you've seen some stuff on social media. She's assuming you're not just like a total blank slate, that you have some ideas. Um, I think though the book is more than just the whole getting over the plateau thing. Um, it's a methodology for the way from the very start to keep yourself engaged with your craft. And as with the last book, in the last book, she's talking about how to um, sort of court a coven to get membership. And in the review that I did of that one, I said that I think the techniques that she gives would be just as useful for job interviews or first dates or asking somebody out. That her technique was the techniques she discussed were broadly applicable for life, and I think the same is true here. She actually includes some techniques that she got from the business world. Um, so I think a lot of them are broadly applicable in life and not just as techniques for keeping your practice going. But I think they're brilliant to throw into your practice, if only for what I was saying before about the value of multiple perspectives. She talks about some of the pressing issues of the day, like cultural appropriation, very delicately. Um, she doesn't commit herself to any side in anything. She just discusses her techniques, which are great. Um, she is stated online more than once that in becoming an author, it seemed that publishers want witches to produce basically magical recipe books of spells and rituals and whatnot. And she says that's not the kind of book she wanted to write. And she doesn't. But she does include exercises, lots of them, some of which you could maybe argue are magical recipes, in that one of them is the lesser banishing of the ritual of the pentagram, which I also have a video on the channel here somewhere. Most of them are not as ritual or spell orientated as that. Most of them are about how to research things, how to try and understand things, different approaches to come at things from different angles. One of my favorites is reverse engineering a reading list when reading a book of magic or occultism, finding out what the authors are reading and read those. A lot of it is stuff that I already do. The stuff that she talks about that I don't already do, I'm gonna do because they're smart. They're efficient. They're short. She really gets to the nitty gritty, and I think ultimately what they all have in common is the whole bit about seeing things from a different perspective, learning more from everything rather than just the first thing that you learn, going around it in a circle rather than straight on, so that you can learn everything about it and then move on to other things that it's connected to. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's brilliant in its simplicity and effective. I mean, everything that she mentions in there that I already do, I think works perfectly. So again, I can't recommend more highly that if you're interested in the craft, or even just living what Plato called the examined life, it's a wonderful manual to help with those things. The exercises, mwah. and it's an easy read. When I talk about how much I like her voice, that makes it an easy read. You're not struggling every bit of the way. It's like you're having a conversation with a friend. The ideas, the thoughts, the conversation just flows out and is engaging, and there's nothing in it that's going to be hard to pick up, because it's like a friend suggesting something cool that you can't help but think is cool too. So I don't want to go into a huge amount of detail because I'd rather that people actually read the book and love it, but do that. Read the book. Love it. It's a great book. I think, and she goes the distance. The reading list at the end, she talks about how people hunger for advanced books, and then she gives a list at the end. And I consider myself well read. I haven't heard of most of those books. I've read a lot of the ones in the bibliography. I think I've only read one on the reading list, and I don't have the translation she recommended, and I found it kind of dry, although useful. But based on what she says about it, I'm thinking that this translation she mentions probably could add much more to my insight on it than you know, the translation that I read, which is stuffy. So again, there's an enormous amount of valuable information in here that flows easily. You're given other directions to go in. You're given ideas for how to plot new directions to go in. I mean, it's extremely useful, not just in the craft, but in life in general, I think. And, you know, 2 thumbs up. Good work, Ms. Mooney. I love it, and I can't wait for you to write another one. I know, it's a lot of work. You're just finished with this one. I don't care. I'm selfish. I want more. So, thanks, and take care, everyone.